chat box if you scroll to the bottom of the screen, or you can speak your question by just speaking. Hello, Zoe. It's okay as well. And Gloriana. Hello, Gloriana. So just to start, if we can turn our attention towards just how the body appears to us right now. Sensations in the body, the sensations of the hands, the arms, the shoulders, the face. Give the sensation whatever time it needs. To reveal itself. The sensation of your feet on the ground. The gentle breath. Movement of your chest. Very subtle movement. Allow the sensation to take you wherever it takes you. Notice the stillness. Everything like the sound of this voice arises in that stillness. Whatever appears is a vibration that arises in this stillness, in presence. When a thought arises, simply remain as you are. You notice a thought. You may notice your interest in the thought. The thought passes and maybe another thought appears or maybe not. It doesn't matter whether a thought arises or not. You remain as you are. In the spaciousness of awareness. That makes no effort. Is not interested in making any effort right now. Notice that in simple presence, you are this presence. Whatever arises, like a passing stream, a passing appearance, you remain as this presence. The presence that has no name. We call it awareness. We call it consciousness. But these are just words that refer to the reality of our experience. I awareness. That has no name and no gender. No age, no location. The body may have a location, may be located in this village, in this town, in this house. But I awareness has no location. It's not an object like the body is an object. Awareness, the reality that perceives right now, is not an object. Notice how an object appears in space, appears in time. But awareness, presence, does not appear. It is, but it does not appear as something. Like love is, beauty is, peace. Allow yourself to sink into being. Invite yourself, invite your body, your mind to sink into being. A borderless space of being that has no mission, no agenda. It's not trying to improve itself. It's not trying to get somewhere. It's not trying to avoid something. Allow yourself to rest as being. Invite yourself. You relax your body. You notice, scan your body. Notice if there is any contraction. Not to judge it, but to invite it to rest as being. Invite it to its complete freedom. Whatever thoughts you have of yourself, they're like dreams, mind stuff that affects your body-mind. When you believe what thoughts say about yourself, you fall in the illusion of being limited by what thought says about you. Thought does not know you. It's a passing dream that sometimes you hold on to. Because with a thought comes a feeling. And you hold on to the feeling to fill the emptiness that does not need to be filled because it is full already. It is full with presence, awareness, but it requires you to cease believing that it's an emptiness that needs to be filled. So remain empty, because the emptiness that you are is not an object that needs to be filled. Whenever you believe yourself to be a man or a woman, a person, somebody, you have condemned yourself to death. you have committed the eternal to the impression of mortality, and you will experience the impression of mortality and the concerns and worry about the past and the future, which come hand in hand with your belief that you are a mortal body-mind. Notice that in this very moment, as you hear these words, you are neither a man nor a woman, you're not a person. Notice that you're just this pure aware presence in this very moment. Noticing the breathing. Noticing the sensation of your feet on the ground. Noticing the hearing of these words. Noticing the noticing. Noticing. Noticing being. The peace of being. The stillness. The vastness of being. Sometimes the mind is seeking to answer some questions. It has questions, some doubts, some questions. It's okay. It's part of the journey to bring the mind on board, for the mind to come to comprehension. Because within the comprehension, its questions are answered. And the mind comes to peace. The body also has questions. We also turn our attention to questions within the body. So the body can come to peace as well. Notice that in your experience, as far as it goes back in memory, there's been one constant in your experience. And that constant is not your body, it's not your mind, it's not your mother, it's not your priest, it's not your rabbi, it's not your guru. The constant in your experience is I awareness. This I awareness has no owner, is not what you imagine yourself to be. In everything we do, we are seeking the love and the happiness. But we are not seeking the love and the happiness that comes and goes. We're not seeking the love and happiness that depends on a certain situation, a certain relationship. This is why we keep searching. Well, I have spoken enough. So it's your turn. If you have any questions, any comments, anything that you want to share, you are welcome to pose your question or your comment. So any questions?
Magdi?
Yes, hello Zoe.
Hi. Well, I had a list of questions written down, but I'm still driving home, so I'm going to try and remember them.
Okay.
I was listening to your December 29th satsang, and at one point you talked about, okay, this habitual way of life is like waiting around the corner, knocking at our door, this imaginary self or whatever. And I'm just curious, so even after awakening, this imaginary thing is like knocking at the door.
I don't remember saying exactly that, but
No, you didn't say exactly that, but that's the best I can remember.
yes.
Yeah.
No. You know, what we refer to as awakening is the process of seeing through the bubble of separation, seeing through the illusion of separation, and ceasing or the ending of the spell of personal, the impression of the personal self, personal separation. So awakening refers to the ending of the belief and the feeling that I refers to a body-mind in time and space. It's the end of the belief and the feeling that I am a man or a woman. It is not the end of perception, sensation, and mentation, but it is the end of the mistaken belief, mistaken identity, mistaken belief that I am a body-mind. What comes hand in hand with the end of this belief and feeling is a recognition of the wholeness of being, the recognition of the unicity, the indivisibility, the seamlessness, the totality of being, which is experienced as peace, love, beauty, freedom, joy, happiness. So to your question, Zoe, no. The impression of being a separate self ceases to knock on your door. Now, it's a process. It takes time. We do not awaken instantaneously, although an insight into our true nature can be instantaneous and spontaneous and remarkable. It can also be under the radar. It could also be subtle and unnoticed until after the fact. But it takes time for the entire body of separation to dissolve and for the full recognition and establishment as being, as universal being, to be settled as your experience.
Okay, that clarifies it. That makes crystal clear sense. Yeah. So when you were speaking about that, it was more like the process of awakening. There, that thing can still be there behind the corner, knocking at the door, going, "Hey."
Yes,
Yeah.
you know,
Okay.
it's important to remain humble, and open, be really watchful of arrogance, arrogance, and to not to make categorical statement. One still could describe one's experience as as how it is. If you have a hiccup once every month, or if you have a hiccup once a year, or if you're having a hiccup 10 times a day, it is how it is. To be sober, sincere, and honest with yourself above all. And although we may come to the understanding and the insight into our true nature as universal consciousness, there is a whole realm of identification and unhappiness and reactivity that's still stored in the body. And we never know how vast that realm is, what could trigger it. But in time, it becomes clear to us that there is more and more peace, more and more tranquility. Situations that used to trigger us in the past no longer have an effect on us, or if it does, it's a small spark and it's gone. So we also can simply recognize that that is the case, if it is.
Thank you. Yes. Okay. So I have another question, and this one, unless somebody else has a question, I'll let them go first.
No, go ahead for now.
Okay. All right. Okay. It was something else you said in that tape, and sorry, I'm walking upstairs to get to my question.
Okay.
Okay. So the others you have projected out of yourself. Could you speak a little bit more about that? Yeah, just that whole process of we project others out of ourselves the instant we identify ourselves as something other than what we really are.
Yes.
Is that what you mean? Okay.
There is no other in your experience outside of yourself. So the other appears as somebody other than yourself when yourself arises as somebody. So when you separate yourself from the wholeness, from the totality, you separate multiple forms, multiple realities. Because in the wholeness of being, there are no separate objects or no separate realities. But as soon as there is one, there is the multiplicity. When you project yourself as a person, as a personal self with your own personal history, your own personal identity. I'm not talking about characteristics of the body mind. I'm talking about your identity, that I am this body mind. As soon as the I becomes a particular body mind, then simultaneously you have separate particular other I's that are separate from I, this particular body mind. So the transparency of I and the universality of I and the borderlessness of I and the non-phenomenal quality of I becomes objective it sort of coagulates into a particular form. And then the impression is that I is a particular coagulation, a particular manifestation. And other I's would be other particular manifestations. So it is out of your own mind that you project other minds and that you experience other minds. Now, other minds are doing the same thing. They're also projecting their own mind and other minds. All these projections are occurring within the realm of being. Because even for a certain coagulation to occur, a certain precipitation to occur, you need a medium for the precipitation to occur. And that medium is presence, is beingness, is consciousness. So you could say that within consciousness, there are particular precipitations, particular manifestations. But what's important to understand is that they do not divide the indivisible. Consciousness is not divided, is not turned into separate manifestations because there are particular manifestations within it. Like in your night dream, when you are dreaming of 20 different characters or many different events, although those dreams appear very real and very particular in there being separate characters and separate stories and separate events, in fact, you remain as you are. And within your dream, the various characters seem to be separate. Character A does not know what character B is thinking or what character C is perceiving. It is as if they have some sort of amnesia, because in fact, they're all part of the unified field of your dream, unified field of consciousness. So you can think of the multiple personality disorder, characters, people who have within them different personalities, different people that do not know each other, or maybe some of them know each other, don't like each other, or love each other. That within that one person, there are those different characters, those different minds that seem to be very real and seem to interact with each other or not. But in fact, none of them is real, they're all mind. Now, I am not saying that there are not other minds outside of your mind. there are other minds outside of your mind that perceive different perceptions than your own mind. And you share some of these perceptions, and some perceptions you do not share. But what I'm saying is that all these minds are within yourself being consciousness. That is out of yourself, your only true self, which is consciousness, that you project a me and another. Am I addressing your question, Zoe?
Yes, and as usual, it's like addresses it on levels that I don't even quite know about. Like something in me just starts getting very still when I hear you speak, Magdi. Yeah, yeah, that metaphor of the multiple personality. It's like that, and the dream as well. It's like it's very helpful to have that, to see that okay, everything comes out of this mind, this, like that snaps into place. And when that identification starts, it's like all of a sudden this whole external world appears when that identification starts.
Yeah, it's helpful to notice how in this particular moment, whichever moment it is, uh, how we are perceiving or what we are perceiving ourselves to be. As soon as we are perceiving ourselves to be a body, mind, a person, in this particular moment, there is the multiplicity of forms. So it is a sort of a a moment by moment spin. It's like there is a slow motion aspect to the spin, to the identity, when you bring your attention to this particular moment. What am I assuming myself to be this very moment? And to sort of allow this question to suspend, to remain suspended within your being. What am I assuming myself to be this very moment? And whatever you're assuming yourself to be, it's just a thinking choice, a thinking and feeling event in consciousness that does not assume itself to be anything. In the field of awareness that has not any process of self-identification. And to rest as that formless, wordless being, nameless being. that does not have an impression of time within it.
Thank you, Magdi.
Okay, Zoe. Rashmi, you write, Dear Magdi, could you please share the recording for December 29 and last Sunday, please? Okay, I will later on, Rashmi. I will do that. So it's December 29, and let me see again, 29 and last Sunday. So Tara, if you can make a note of that so I don't forget, December 29 and last Sunday. Okay. Any questions?
Magdi, it's Esther.
Hello, Esther.
In continuing along with Zoe's question, so whenever I am engaged body mind in the world with others, there's an identification, or can I be present in that engagement and see it as God's dream?
Well, this very moment, Esther, we are engaging, yes?
Yes,
It is all God's dream. And to notice, there is available to us the possibility to notice. There isn't a standard across the board answer to your question, but we can look and notice what is our assumption this very moment. Thank you, Habibti. And if there is an assumption in this very moment, an identification in this very moment as we are engaging, then it must be there somewhere. It must be present somewhere, somehow. And it's present to us because if we are engaging and there is identification, that means that I am seeking or resisting. I am doing that. And it's available for me to see it. It's possible for me to see it because it's happening. If it is happening, it's happening right here, right now, you see. So I'm interested in looking, I'm interested in noticing that. And it is my interest is very important, and my willingness to see some things about myself that even if I don't like them, even if they are not praiseworthy. So no, I would not say that whenever we engage in the world, in relationship, that there is identification. No. We drive to the market to to shop because we have a responsibility towards the body, a relationship with the body, to feed the body. We visit friends because we have a responsibility for the body that has a social aspect to it. So we do these things. It's part of the human dimension. It's part of this manifestation. But it doesn't imply that I am in identification or in the sense of separation. We have to look and see what it's like, what is actually happening for you. So it's a real-time inquiry, Esther. It's for you to see. And one indicator is that whenever you are engaged from the sense of the me, from the sense of separate self, from the identification, you will experience some unease, some sense of something is off. But you have to be willing to recognize that, because in many cases, for most of us, we don't even notice our unhappiness. We become so habituated to it that we don't even notice our unhappiness and our discomfort. I'm not talking about physical discomfort, but about our sense of inner imbalance. So that's a good indicator for you. Then when you notice that you are seeking or avoiding on behalf of the separate self, you notice the unhappiness, you notice this discomfort, you become interested in it. And not interested in getting rid of it, not interested in blaming it or sweeping it under the rug or justifying it. No, you're interested in it. You're interested in seeing it, in allowing it to come to the surface to reveal itself.
So that's what it's like to be alert and constantly, really, to be present 24/7, to be and there's no I guess there's no sense in trying to figure out if you're separate or not. It's just that would be silly. It's just part of being aware, is being alert.
Yes, I wouldn't be so stringent about the 24/7, Esther. You know, we can be forgiving about our lapses, you know, our tendencies that still want to manifest, you know, the separate self, still to be easy about it, but still interested, but it's not a mission, you know. It's not. It's our interest. We're interested in peace and happiness. And okay, so sometimes there is ignorance, sometimes there are fears, sometimes there is projection, but a minute later or 10 minutes later, it's gone, you know. So we recognize that, not a big deal. It's not a big deal. not about being perfect. It's a more honoring our interest and our love for truth, which is love, and of course it is very forgiving, and it allows it all, because in the end nothing is really happening, because consciousness is being, it's not a happening. So all happenings are mind impressions. And our interest is not to end mind impressions, but to realize the non-happening, which is eternal presence, the peace of being. It's not about being peaceful 24/7, but noticing the peace of being. There is. There may be some waves at the surface of the ocean, but you know yourself to be the ocean. So the waves are not a big deal and in time, because you remain interested in your oceanhood. The waves no longer appear to you as waves. It's all the ocean. And in fact, you may realize that there were never any waves, because the ocean does not know any waves. It is a human mind that waves.
Mm.
The waving mind.
Thanks, Maggie. Thanks.
Okay, Esther. Nice talking to you, Esther. Rashmi, you write, can you talk about the silence some more, please? Are you sure, Rashmi?
That's a good one, Rashmi.
I will allow the silence to speak about itself. It's always speaking. But I would say, Rashmi, that the mind is interconnected with the senses and is interested in activities, in movement, in events, in situations, in experiences, and it overlooks the vastness of being. So the senses provide a limited window onto the cosmic reality. There is an introspection, the contemplation, that provides you a different window that goes more to the essence. One could even say to the core, to the heart of existence, which is silence. The silence of being, not the silence of the mind or the silence of the body, but the loud silence of being. So we realize the window of the senses is a certain direction. There is a different direction, not that the senses do not have their function, they do. But in terms of your question, there is a different window, which is the window of contemplation, meditation, introspection. Which you are well on your way along that path. Our true nature, the true nature of the universe is what you are asking about. And it's beyond any particular mind, and it's beyond all minds, but not beyond I, not beyond consciousness, that which I am. It actually is that which I am. Any questions? You're welcome, Rashmi. Any questions?
Okay, well, if nobody's going to ask.
Yes, Zoe.
Okay, so this was also from the other one. Can you speak more about we create the thoughts, sensations, and perceptions we perceive? And then you said, take back your power, don't give it to thought.
Yes. So in Advaita, which is non-duality, one way of looking at it is that it refers to one reality. There's only one reality, non-dual, or not two. Therefore, you are both the conceiver, the creator, the perceiver, and the destroyer, destructor, the dissolver. You conceive, you create, you perceive, you dissolve, you absolve. From the dualistic model, the materialistic model, the model that basically states there are multiple realities. There is a physical reality and there is a mind, and they are separate. The mind creates the world. Mind, the world appears to the mind, or the mind is creating the world. That has a dualistic aspect to it. It is assuming that there is a mind reality and the physical reality, and that there is what we refer personal self-reality and an external physical reality. And that the brain, for example, creates the world. Or that the brain creates the images of the world. It still assumes a reality to some form, which we refer to as the brain or the mind, and an experience that this physical reality, physical form, this material form is having. Whether it's having it by generating it within itself, or whether it's having it by interacting with the universe out there somewhere. But if there is a material form, it's only relevant via its knowingness, via awareness, or via consciousness. Otherwise, it would be like some sort of form, a brain power that's floating out there somewhere in space that we have no knowingness of it. And that would be that does not conform to our experience. In our experience, we know, we experience. I experience an image of the brain, or experience perception. So the subjectivity of the experience is always present in our experience. It's a subjective aspect. You cannot postulate based on your experience a reality that or a material realm that exists outside of your experience, because it would be completely theoretical. It would be just simply a thought that is appearing to you anyways. It's appearing to you as awareness anyways. So given there is one reality, if you come to that, to accept that postulate, which is more in accordance with your experience, because you don't experience multiple realities. You only experience your experience. Whatever its content is, this content may vary from day to day, from minute to minute, but it's still your experience. It still refers to the first order, the I. So if you accept this postulate that there is one reality, and that this one reality is consciousness, I consciousness, then whatever arises to you, meaning to consciousness, has to be consciousness itself, has to be the product of consciousness, has to be made out of consciousness, and has to be perceived by consciousness, because it's only the reality of consciousness. So everything that you perceive, you must also conceive. And everything that you perceive, you must also create. Because what else would conceive it and what else would create it, given, again, based on your experiences, only the reality of consciousness? You don't know of any other reality, nor can you ever know of any other reality outside of your own experience. Experience meaning not its content, but the I that is experiencing, because the content of your experience changes all the time. So it's not the content of your experience that is the reality. It is consciousness that experiences all experiences that is reality. So it is out of yourself, meaning consciousness, that you project all thoughts, ideas, perceptions, meditations, sensations, feelings, memories. And thought says, no, they are created from beyond. And also, more importantly, I think that what thought says, which is your own projection, it says, I am projecting you. I, the mind, I, the brain, I, whatever, I'm projecting you. I know you. You are happy today. You had a good dinner, blah, blah, blah. It knows, it claims to know you. If you look at your thoughts, most of your thoughts are about you.
Only 99.99%.
I hope not. But a lot of our thoughts are about, most of our thoughts are about me. Me tomorrow, me yesterday, me. So therefore, we are assuming that thought knows us, right? We're assuming that thought knows something about us because it's speaking about us. Thought is speaking about us. It's saying, oh, you're having a bad life, you're not going to succeed in your life, you're miserable. Or it says, oh, you're doing great, you got promotion, this. Thought is speaking something about us. So it must know us. Because if it did not know us, it would not say anything about us. But the question is this true? In fact, when we look at it from a different perspective, from the perspective of consciousness, we realize that no, thought does not know us. I perceive the thought. I perceive the thought that, oh, my neighbor does not like me. Because if I did not perceive the thought, there would be no thought. So the thought requires me to perceive it. Me meaning consciousness, not me, Magdi, or me, man or a woman. Me, I consciousness perceive. So thought requires consciousness to perceive it. And also, thought requires consciousness to say yes to the thought. Yes, you, the thought, know me, which is so foolish. How can a thought which is appearing to you know you? A thought does not know you. A thought does not know another thought. A thought does not know a sensation. A thought is known. It is not knowing. So, to reiterate, a thought that says something about you first requires I consciousness to perceive it. It's an appearance. And secondly, it requires I consciousness to say, yes, you thought know me. So we, meaning I consciousness, is playing along, is playing this game of imagining that thought knows it. So in part of our Advaitic study is to own the thought and not to be owned by the thought. You follow?
Yes, Magdi, this it just is hitting every I don't know. Yeah, beautiful. Just absolutely. When you spoke in that other tape, you talked about like the thought is an object, and a thing
Yes.
that's an object cannot perceive.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. And this whole thing about consciousness, like you said, making, I guess in a sense, making the decision to play along with this, you know, it just brings up all these other things of like, okay, so I don't know if it was you who said this or someone else, but like the dreaming of the teacher, of the outside teacher, is like because consciousness is decided to awaken to itself in a sense.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Now, once you start to understand this process, the sense of being a limited self, which is only the result of thinking and feeling, that sense starts to become porous.
Yeah, that's what it feels like, porous. Yeah.
Yes, and as the sense of the bubble becomes porous, your sense of being becomes less and less defined and contained. And you find yourself sort of moving from the bubble of separation to the unified field of consciousness. Because
sorry, I'm just so excited. But so there, Jean Klein talked about this forefeeling, and it just feels like this forefeeling of like the magnificence of what's really here. Like I finally think I had a little taste of, I don't know, that, but yeah.
Yes, and the forefeeling is like every bubble. Let's say, okay, every piece of, okay, every wave in the ocean. How about that? Every wave in the ocean has a forefeeling of the ocean, because the wave is made out of water, and so is the ocean. Right?
Yes.
So we have a forefeeling of the splendor of consciousness. And it, to various degrees, we have that forefeeling, because not that the forefeeling in itself has different degrees in it. It is our in touchedness, our in touchedness with that forefeeling has various degrees depending on how fascinated we are with our thoughts and feelings and emotions. The more we are fascinated with our feelings, thoughts, and emotion, the less that forefeeling of the splendor of consciousness is, we are tapping into it. It is like you have a treasure on the first floor, but you live on the 12th floor, and that's where all your toys are, on the 12th floor. Some other people they're playing on the 4th floor, and some on the 2nd floor, and some are not playing at all. They're just enjoying the treasure.
Wow.
We all have that treasure. It's still there on the first floor, but we may be interested now. We're still interested in thoughts, feelings, and sensations. So if we are interested in our thoughts and feelings and sensations, we're interested in our story, we're interested in our future, we're interested in our past, we're interested in our mothers, fathers, children, grandfathers, partners, jobs, cars, auto, whatever, and feelings, our feelings. So that's where the spin is, okay? So yes, Jean Klein, of course, speaking about, was speaking to his students, his friends, who were interested in truth, in love and beauty. So he was telling them, we all have a forefeeling of home, of our true nature. And God loves everybody. He doesn't love anybody more than anybody else. We all are loved equally, and we're all gifted equally with all what is needed for us to awaken from the unhappiness of the sense of separation, which keeps appearing to us in so many different forms, if we only have the eyes to see. Kelly, you're right. Do people living on the first floor feel anger? So on the first floor, just to repeat my metaphor, is where the treasure is, just in the metaphor. Could have been in the cellar, or the 3rd floor, but it's on the 1st floor in my metaphor. So anger relates to seeking and resisting, and blaming, meaning blaming is a resistance. I don't want to feel what I'm feeling now, so you are the culprit. You are the one who are irritating me. You see, so it's a projection of blame. It's a projection of blame, and it's purely the expression of the sense of separation. So if you are on the 1st floor, meaning that you have realized your true nature, then anger is no longer a visitor, because that process of seeking and avoiding, which resides in the body-mind, has already been cured, forgiven. And this does not mean that you may not on occasion get a little irritation, but that's quite different from anger. Anger is sort of has more of a full-blown me and you, and it has the impression of time in it, and blame in it. It's more intricate than getting irritated here and there, because sometimes people are very irritating. But hey, no big deal, right? Yes, Kelly, you're right. I understand irritated sometimes, thank you, yes. And the irritation doesn't last long. It's like something irritates you. Sometimes at work, people do things that, and then sort of. And you also learn from the irritation. Sometimes you learn that, wait a minute, yeah, I could just speak nicely to this person in a way, try to make them understand rather than the irritation. Because sometimes irritation, it just makes people reactive. Not sometimes, maybe often it makes people reactive, and it's self-defeating, So it happens here and there. Hello, Gloriana. You're right, dear Magdi, you have to leave. I have to leave right now. Thank you very much. Best wishes for you both. Okay, thank you, Gloriana. Actually, it is also 6:30 here. I noticed that Jenny joined us, so hola, Jenny. Nice to see you. ¿Cómo está, Jenny? I don't hear you, Jenny. Let me see. Unmute. ¿Cómo está, Jenny? ¿Tranquilo? Oh, I don't hear you, Jenny. No te escucha. Well, thank you all. Very, very lovely to be with you, Zoe and Kelly. Hello, Holly and Gloriana and George. Nice to see you, George, and Esther, and Zoe and Rashmi, and Gabby. And Maria Teresa, nice to have you on board. Thank you all.
Thank you, Magdi.
Thank you, Magdi.
Thank you.
Namaste.
Thank you.